On the morning of November 21st, 1964, the 18-year-old Donald Trump accompanied his politically well-connected father to the dedication ceremony of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, linking Brooklyn's Bay Ridge to Staten Island. Before the 11 a.m. ceremony, 52 limousines carrying an array of politicians and influential figures snaked through the Bay Ridge neighborhood to the Brooklyn side of the bridge. At the front of the worthies crowded behind the ribbon was Robert Moses, the head of the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority, whose iron-fisted approach to consolidating power and forcing through construction plans was admired by both the teenager and his father. Even by Moses's standards, this project was a particularly heavy lift. It had come to fruition only after decades of failed attempts to link the two boroughs. 5 men were ultimately handed sets of golden scissors, including New York's mayor, governor, and Moses, the designated master of ceremonies. The men followed a signal to clip the ribbon, and then the procession drove over the bridge to the Staten Island side, where the official program was held. There, the engineer who had designed the long-delayed suspension bridge project, Othmar Ammann, disappeared into the grandstand. Donald Trump later would describe the 80-minute ceremony as a sad experience that was foundational for him. In his telling, it rained heavily that day, and he watched Ammann standing by himself while others talked about his creation and all but ignored him. The rain was coming down for hours, while all these jerks were being introduced and praised, Trump recalled in 1980 to New York Times reporter Howard Blum. But all I'm thinking about is that all these politicians who opposed the bridge are being applauded. Yet in a corner, just standing there in the rain, is this man, this 85-year-old engineer who came from Sweden and designed this bridge, who poured his heart into it, and nobody even mentioned his name. I realized then and there that if you let people treat you how they want, you'll be made a fool, Trump told Blum. I realized then and there something I would never forget. I don't want to be made anybody's sucker. Trump's view of the day appeared to be singular. The sun shone, the sky was cloudless, were the first lines of Gay Talese's next-day Times dispatch about the 1964 ceremony. There was no rainfall. Ammann was Swiss, not Swedish, and he had lived in the United States for decades before the bridge's completion, having emigrated from Switzerland in 1904. And in fact, Ammann was among the first people Moses called on to be acknowledged with applause during the ceremony. I now ask that one of these significant great men of our times, modest, unassuming, too often overlooked on such grandiose occasions, stand and be recognized. It may be that in the midst of so many celebrities, you don't even know who he is, Moses said at the microphone. My friends, I ask that you now look upon the greatest living bridge engineer, perhaps the greatest of all time. A Swiss who has lived, and labored magnificently 60 years in this country. Ammann stood and received a loud ovation from the crowd. Moses forgot one thing, his name, in what appeared to be an inadvertent slip. Perhaps that was the germ of Trump's story, the rest of which was mostly a confection. Trump's remark suggesting that Ammann had been made a sucker revealed a belief that people were looking for ways to get him, that if he felt harmed, it wasn't done accidentally. Whatever the reasons he seized on this incident and turned it into an origin story, he revealed himself to be an unreliable narrator of his own history from its early moments. His comments went unchecked for years, but for good reason. Why would anyone think such details might be untrue? Even without embellishment, there was plenty of power for Trump to soak up that day. The people who ran the world Trump's father had aspired to join were all there, describing their own roles in getting the project accomplished. But Trump's main interest at the time was not about the kind of power, ingenuity, or clout that led to invitations to ribbon cuttings for construction projects, even as he told people that he wanted to own plum real estate in New York City. It was about becoming a star.